You scream in a silent forest, and the shadows scream back in your voice. You know that old question, right? If a tree falls in a forest and no one's around, does it make a sound? Physically, yeah, of course. Sound waves are sound waves. But I found out the hard way that's not the real question. The real question is, what happens if you scream in a silent forest and something screams back in your own voice? Section 1. The setup. For the last 8 years, I've been a search and rescue officer in the Pacific Northwest. I've seen things out there that would make most people trade in their hiking boots for a quiet life in the suburbs. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepares you for a place like St. Jude's National Forest. Specifically, a chunk of it we all called Zone 9. Zone 9 isn't on any public map. It's a complete dead zone for radios, and the silence in there is just different. It's not peaceful. It's heavy like a lead blanket smothering everything. The kind of quiet that makes the crunch of your own boots sound like a firecracker going off next to your ear. About 2 months ago, a young trail runner went missing. His car was parked at a trailhead that bordered Zone 9, and we all knew what that likely meant. We ran the standard search, grid patterns, whistles, calling his name. But the closer we got to the edge of the zone, the colder the air felt. The woods fell completely, unnaturally still. You could see it on the faces of the team. Everyone was on edge. After a week, the official search was scaled back, but it just didn't sit right with me. I kept thinking about his family needing answers, so against regulations and against every instinct screaming in my head, I decided to go back in, alone. I told myself it was just one last sweep. I'd check the ravines and creek beds near the zone's border, places he could have fallen. I packed light, just enough for a day trip. The plan was simple. Follow the southern ridge, scan the valleys, and get back to my truck before dark. But the forest, it had other ideas. The first thing that got to me was the silence. I've spent thousands of hours alone in the wilderness, but this was something else. No birds, no squirrels, nothing but the faint whisper of wind and the heavy thud of my own heart. The whole forest felt like it was holding its breath, just waiting. Section 2. The inciting incident and escalation. By midday, I was way deeper than I'd meant to go. A thick, soupy fog rolled in out of nowhere, cutting visibility down to maybe 20 feet. Then, I looked at my compass. It was just spinning, completely useless. We'd always heard rumors about magnetic ore deposits in Zone 9 messing with equipment. Frustration started turning into real, solid fear. I'm a professional, but I'm also human, and I was completely lost. After stumbling through the same patch of thorns for what felt like the third time, tearing my jacket and my arm, something in me just snapped. I threw my head back, and I screamed. It wasn't a word, just a raw, primal yell of pure frustration and panic into the fog. The sound just vanished, swallowed up by the trees. I stood there, panting, feeling stupid, and then I heard it. From somewhere in the fog, maybe 50 yards ahead, my scream came back to me. It wasn't an echo. An echo degrades, it gets weaker. This was a perfect recording. A high-fidelity playback of my own scream, with the exact same pitch, the same desperate, ragged edge. My brain raced to make sense of it. A freak acoustic event? Some weird trick of the fog? It had to be something rational. I stood there for a full minute, straining my ears, but there was only that oppressive quiet. I had to test it. Taking a breath, I called out, "Hello?" My voice tight. The silence stretched. 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds. And then, from a slightly different spot, it came back. Hello? It was my voice, my exact voice. The inflection, the little tremor of anxiety I was trying to hide. It was all there. It was so perfect, it felt impossible. My SAR training kicked in. There are no sheer cliff faces here. No rock walls that could create a reflection this clean. It felt like the forest had just hit record on my voice and was now playing it back. Almost like it was studying it. Section 3. Rising action and the fracture of reality. A cold, creeping dread started to replace the confusion. This wasn't natural. I knew, with a certainty that went beyond logic, that I had to be quiet. That making a sound was giving something away. My location, my presence, myself. The survey was over. My only mission now was to get out. I decided to just walk due west in a straight line until I hit the service road. No more talking, no more sounds. Silence was my only defense. For an hour, it felt like it was working. I moved slow and steady, trying not to even crunch the leaves under my feet. The fog started to thin, and the silence was still absolute. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, followed. It was so intense the hairs on my arms were standing straight up. I kept looking over my shoulder, but there was never anything there. Just more trees. Then I heard it. A whisper, so faint it was almost part of the wind. Help me. I froze. The voice was mine. A perfect copy of my own whisper. But it came from my left, from a dense patch of cedars. It wasn't a reply this time. I hadn't said anything. This was new. It was taking the sounds I'd given it and building its own words. It was learning. Cold, sharp panic cut right through me. I started moving faster, breaking into a clumsy jog, and the forest responded. The whispers started coming from all around me, a horrifying chorus in my own voice. Lost, from behind a tree. So cold, from the branches overhead. Where are you? That last one was the worst. It sounded curious, like it was hunting. It was taking my deepest fears and throwing them back at me in my own voice. I was lost. It was getting cold. I was desperate. It was like the forest wasn't just mimicking my voice, but reading my mind. I couldn't trust what I was hearing anymore. Was that my own thought? Or was it a whisper from the shadows? Section 4. The climax. I ran. All strategy was gone. I just ran, desperate to get away. Branches whipped my face, my lungs burned, but I didn't care. The whispers kept pace with me, like a ghost running right beside me. They were getting more complex now. It started using the name of the missing hiker, a name I'd shouted myself during the first search days ago. My voice calling his name over and over became a taunting chant from the trees. Whatever this thing was, it was smart. I remembered old campfire stories about spirits that mimic voices to lure you to your death. This wasn't a story. This was real. And it wasn't luring me. It was hurting me. Every time I tried to change direction, a whisper would flare up from the path ahead, turning me back onto its chosen course. Finally, my body just gave out. My legs buckled, and I collapsed at the base of a huge, ancient fir tree, gasping for breath. I curled into a ball, hands clamped over my ears, trying to block out the sound of my own voice being used to torture me. And just like that, everything went silent again. That heavy, expectant quiet fell over the woods. Minutes felt like an eternity. I didn't move. I barely breathed. My heart was a drum against my ribs, In the stillness, a single thought formed in my mind. It's gone. I'm safe. And then I heard a new sound. Not from the trees, not on the wind. This sound was inside my head. A perfectly clear whisper, right in my ear, with no source at all. It was my voice, but it was filled with a cold, mocking amusement. And it spoke the exact words I had just thought. You think you're safe? Conclusion. I honestly don't remember how I got out of there. The next thing I knew, I was stumbling onto the service road as the sun was setting. A guy in a lumber truck found me, covered in scratches and babbling nonsense. I spent 2 days in the hospital for dehydration and exposure. I just told them I got turned around in the fog. I never said a word about the voice. Who would have believed me? Sometimes, when I'm in a quiet room, I still hear it. A faint echo. I quit search and rescue. I can't go in the woods anymore. I can barely even stand to hear a recording of my own voice. This story is a work of fiction. The places aren't real, but the fear is. The idea that something out there could listen to you, learn you, and take the one thing that is yours, your voice, and turn it against you. That's terrifying. Zone 9 is still out there, silent. And I have to believe it's still waiting, just listening for the next person to scream. If you enjoy stories that explore that darkness at the edge of what we know, please subscribe. Thanks for listening.